They say the northern lights dance above this cathedral for a reason. Buried in frost and folklore, beneath its stone lies something far older than Christianity. Welcome to Trondheim, Norway, where snowy streets, solar panels, and college cafes sit right beside a cathedral that practically hums with sacred energy. Hello, I'm James, but online I go by Andrade, and in this series, Sketch and Story, we dive deep into the world's most mysterious architectural marvels, while sketching them live. This time I'm working digitally, layering ink strokes and texture as we explore Nidaros Cathedral, Norway's national sanctuary. But this isn't just some frozen Gothic masterpiece, it's the final resting place of a slain Viking king turned saint, a medieval pilgrimage site that once rivaled Santiago in Rome, and, according to some, a magical gateway built atop a pre-Christian power site. Here's what we'll explore in today's journey: the strange, bloody origins of this cathedral, including Olaf's sword-swinging ghost, the hauntingly beautiful architecture and art, what it feels like inside from echoing stone to ethereal light, hidden symbols, relics, and spiritual secrets embedded in the design, the sacred math and geometry that hold the whole thing together, and finally, the deeper mysteries, Norse rites, occult connections, and a few ghost stories to chilling for the tour guides. So stick around, you'll watch the digital sketch come to life, and maybe unlock a few secrets that have been sleeping in the frost for 1,000 years. Let's step back in time to when this land wasn't ruled by the cross, but by fire, blood, and sagas. Before there was a cathedral, there was a battlefield. Before there was Christianity, there was Olaf. To understand Nidaros, you have to understand Norway's most controversial king, Olaf II Haraldsson, aka Saint Olaf. He was no monk. Olaf was a Viking warlord turned Christian convert who once burned down villages to force baptisms and wielded the cross like a broadsword. But after dying in battle at Stiklestad in 1030, betrayed by his own, something strange happened. His body was exhumed a year later, and according to chroniclers, it hadn't decayed. In fact, it smelled sweet. That was all the church needed to proclaim him a saint. The site where his body was buried, on the banks of the Nidelva River in Trondheim, became an instant magnet for pilgrims, mystics, and monarchs. A wooden chapel was first built over his grave around 1031, but this humble shrine didn't stay small for long. Word of miracles spread, the sick were healed, storms calmed, and visions reported near the tomb. Olaf wasn't just a national hero, he was fast becoming a northern Christ figure wrapped in Norse saga and medieval politics. By the late 11th century, King Olaf Kyrre, Olaf's son, and Archbishop Eystein took things to the next level. They began building a massive stone church on the burial site, modeling it loosely after Canterbury Cathedral and the great churches of England, but with a colder, more mystical twist. This was no coincidence. Trondheim, then called Nidaros, was the northernmost outpost of Christianity's reach, the edge of the known world. Building a cathedral here wasn't just spiritual, it was symbolic. This was Rome versus Ragnarok, light versus the long, dark winter. And that's how Nidaros was born, not in peace, but in the ashes of conquest, miracles, and myth. Today, pilgrims still walk the St. Olav's ways, Norway's ancient paths that lead to this frozen beacon, but most don't realize beneath every stone there's a saga. Let's zoom in now to the walls, towers, and carvings themselves, because Nidaros doesn't just sit on ancient power, it was built to channel it. Nidaros isn't just a cathedral, it's a frostbitten mixtape of medieval Europe's greatest hits, spliced, shattered, and rebuilt by storms, fires, and ambition. At first glance, Nidaros might trick you. It looks like classic Gothic cathedral with its spires, pointed arches, and rose windows. But lean in, the building is chaos by design. Originally Romanesque, the cathedral started with heavy stone walls and rounded arches. Think fortress meets monastery. But after a series of fires and reconstructions, especially after the 1327 fire, layers of Gothic flamboyance were slapped on top. The result? A cathedral that shapeshifts depending on where you stand. Let's start with the west front, the real showstopper. It's crowded with dozens of statues, kings, bishops, apostles, and some figures no one can quite identify. At the center is a massive rose window known as the, quote, Eye of God, glowing like a frostbitten portal during sunsets. If it looks like it was ripped from a French cathedral, you're not wrong. English and German craftsmen brought continental flair to this remote northern project, making Nidaros one of the most exotic mashups in Gothic history. It's like someone took Canterbury and said, quote, "Let's make it weirder and colder." Inside, the nave stretches long and narrow with ribbed vaults that pull your gaze toward the east end, and the high altar sitting above St. Olav's burial site. The walls are etched with scars from centuries of weather, war, and restorations. Even the stone is special, a volcanic gray-green schist quarried nearby, giving the whole cathedral a damp, eerie aura. At night under moonlight or aurora borealis, it looks less like a house of worship and more like the setting for a Nordic fantasy epic. But the most overlooked feature? The octagonal shrine at the east end, where Olaf's remains were once kept. It's bizarre and beautiful, inspired by Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and designed to anchor spiritual energy. Pilgrims didn't just visit Olaf's grave, they circled it like an axis mundi, a holy core connecting heaven and earth. This was never meant to be just a church, it was a northern temple. From stone to spirit, every detail whispers myth. But now, let's step inside, because Nidaros doesn't just look magical, it feels like it's humming with ancient energy. Step inside further, and the temperature drops. It's not just because it's Norway. The air changes, the sound thickens, the light bends, and for a second it feels like the walls themselves are breathing. Inside Nidaros Cathedral, everything slows down. The moment your boots hit the stone, you're surrounded by a deep, echoing hush, like the building itself is listening. Light seeps in through tall Gothic windows like ancient breath, filtered through faded stained glass that turns winter sunlight into muted rainbows on cold gray stone. No LED tricks, no artificial drama, just nature and silence, working in tandem to create an atmosphere that's half sacred, half haunted. What's wild is how this cathedral directs your body. The long nave subtly funnels you east toward the octagon shrine and the old resting place of St. Olaf. You don't even realize you're being guided, it just happens. This kind of architectural choreography was intentional. You're walking a spiritual path mapped out by centuries by people who believed light, space, and sound were tools of transcendence. And they were right. The acoustics are otherworldly. A single note beneath the vaults and it lingers, like it doesn't want to leave. This is no accident. The builders knew their geometry. Every curve, every ribbed vault, every stone placement was calibrated to enhance the echo of devotion. Today it's still used for live concerts, and when music fills the space, it doesn't feel like a performance, it feels like summoning. Gregorian chants, organ drones, even silence all feel like part of the architecture itself. And then there's the darkness. Not ominous, but reverent. This isn't a blindingly lit white church. Nidaros holds shadows like secrets. Candlelight barely touches the higher arches. Your eyes take time to adjust. You start noticing carvings tucked into columns, faint faces peering from archways, details you'd miss if the cathedral weren't forcing you to look slowly. It's not a building designed for Instagram, it's a space designed for awakening. As the light filters through the age-stained glass and the footsteps echo beneath ribbed vaults, you begin to notice something deeper. Hidden messages, silent watchers, relics placed like puzzle pieces. You're not just in a church, you're inside a centuries-old code. And next, we're going to decode it. It's not just what's here, it's what's missing, hidden, or distorted. Nidaros isn't a church you just tour, it's a cathedral you decode. At first glance, the cathedral feels classic. Cruciform layouts, stained glass, altars, arches, but look closer and you'll notice Nidaros is laced with a strange duality. Christian symbols overlap with pre-Christian echoes, like a palimpsest where the old Nordic myths were never fully erased, and nowhere is that tension more present than in the statues and relics embedded across the stonework. Let's start with the main event, St. Olaf. He's the reason this cathedral exists. His burial here turned the site into a major pilgrimage destination for medieval Scandinavia. Olaf wasn't just a king, he was the saint that helped Christianize Norway. Though his methods weren't exactly soft and peaceful, his shrine became legendary, rumored to have healing powers, and was once encased in silver and gemstones, with pilgrims crawling toward it at their knees. But here's the twist. His remains were lost during the Reformation, and nobody knows where they are now. A cathedral built to house a body? now houses a mystery. And then there are faces carved into the walls. Over 60 of them. Some smile, some grimace, some look downright monstrous. They're not just saints and angels. Scholars debate their meanings. Are they symbolic protectors, representations of good and evil, echoes of older Norse deities? One theory suggests that were encoded visual warnings, a medieval comic strip warning pilgrims to stay on the righteous path. Another theory? They're residue of older gods, reimagined under Christian rule but never fully exorcised. Even the stained glass doesn't just tell biblical stories, it tells Norwegian ones. Kings are crowned, Vikings kneel. There's an entire national identity narrative woven into the iconography, reminding visitors that this isn't just a religious site, it's a political statement too, and always has been. And yet, for all its heavy symbolism, Nidaros loves a secret. The octagon at the eastern end is geometrically perfect, echoing early Christian martyrdom shrines, but no one knows why it was designed this way. The rose window at the western front seems oddly celestial, resembling the sun at its highest point during the solstice. And deep in the crypts, behind iron gates, there are burial sites with no names. Their identities lost to time but preserved in sacred space. It's not a mistake, it's an invitation to wonder. The further you go, the more Nidaros stops acting like a church and starts acting like a riddle. And that's no accident, because the builders weren't just artists, they were mathematicians too. And next, we're going to unravel the cathedral's genius geometry. This cathedral wasn't just built, it was encoded. Nidaros is a riddle in stone layered with symmetry, astronomy, and math that still baffles modern architects. From the outside, Nidaros seemed rugged, windswept, ancient, almost primal. But once you start analyzing its layout, a startling intelligence emerges. Every column, vault, and chamber is built with deliberate precision. At its heart is the octagon, an 8-sided sanctuary unlike anything else in Norwegian church design. Some believe it echoes the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, anchoring Nidaros to a global spiritual lineage. Others say it's an astromap designed to channel divine geometry or something even older. The symmetry of the octagon isn't just symbolic, it's structural genius. Its ribs and arches distribute weight like a spiderweb, creating balance in a brutal climate where wind and snow could have shattered lesser buildings. But it also mirrors resurrection imagery. The number 8 represents new beginnings in Christian mysticism, but was also sacred to pre-Christian North cosmology. Here, Nidaros fuses two belief systems into one shape. And then there's the western facade, a wild wall of statues, arches, and rose window geometry that seems to breathe with cosmic intent. The massive rose window isn't just decoration. It's perfectly centered to catch the summer solstice light and flood the nave in color. Some research speculate it may have been used as a seasonal timekeeper, aligning with solar events like a cathedral-sized sundial. Others note that its spiral design looks uncannily similar to Viking sunstone crystals, which were used to navigate at sea even through clouds. Even deeper in architecture, hidden layers of math emerge. The length of the nave, the spacing between columns, the angle of the choir, all can be reduced to ratios linked to the golden mean, sacred cubits, and ancient Norse units of measurement. One theory suggests the builders embedded a coded Norse calendar into the stonework, mapping festivals, solstices, and holy days with cryptic alignments, only visible to those who knew where to look. It's as if Nidaros wasn't built just to last, it was built to communicate, to whisper across centuries. But what was it trying to say? And who was meant to decode it? Let's go beneath the cathedral and into its occult shadows. They say if you stand alone in the octagon after dark, you hear voices, not of the saints, but of something far older. Beneath the official history of Nidaros lies a much stranger story, one veiled in shadows, whispered in candlelit halls, and passed down through folklore instead of scripture. This isn't just a Christian site, it's a threshold, a place where the veil between worlds thins. Some Norwegians still call it a liminal cathedral, not because of aesthetics, but because people vanish in it. From ancient monks to modern-day tourists, rumors persist of those who entered a chapel or crypt and were never seen again. One of the strangest legends tied to Nidaros is that the octagon itself is a sealing mechanism, a spiritual lock designed to contain something beneath it. During restoration work in the 1800s, workers discovered carvings of spirals, Ouroboros snakes, and runic inscriptions on stones that predate Christian foundation. One symbol etched directly under the altar resembles an Icelandic stab used for dreamwalking. Paranormal investigators who visited the claim the octagon gives off echoes, even in total silence, as if it were replaying memories or summoning attention. There are also persistent rumors of a sealed chamber beneath the crypt, one that's been off limits for centuries. Some say it's the burial site of a Norse seer, entombed alive by early Christians for refusing to convert. Others claim it's a vault containing fragments of pagan relics, hidden from view to prevent their rediscovery. One particularly fringe theory suggests that a black meteorite, known as Sami, myth was the heart of the sky god, and that lies beneath the cathedral, aligning with geomagnetic anomalies recorded in the area during northern light storms. And then there's the gargoyle code. Along the facade and archways of the Nidaros are dozens of grotesques, not just of demons and dragons, but of creatures unknown in medieval bestiaries. A few bear resemblance to Jotnar, the Norse giants of old, but some are even stranger, entities with multiple eyes, distorted faces, and no known origin. Recent 3D scans have shown that these statues form a repeating numeric pattern, like a visual code, hinting at an intentional message encoded in stone. What if Nidaros wasn't just trying to scare off evil, but hold it in? What if the real purpose of this cathedral was never worship, but containment? Either way, the truth is buried somewhere in the next chamber, and let's move to the end so we bring this journey full circle. So what's the final verdict? Nidaros Cathedral isn't just a stunning relic of medieval Christianity. It's a layered archive of the North, a crossroads where Viking mysticism, Catholic symbolism, and esoteric geometry collide under one fostered roof. Whether you believe in energy portals, runic seals, or just really intense Scandinavian architecture, it's hard to stand beneath its towers and not feel something old. From the soaring Gothic arches to the eerie whispers of the octagon, this cathedral is more than a monument. It's a mystery still unfolding, and it's not done speaking. Every statue, every stone, every freakishly symmetrical measurement is part of a message left behind by builders who might have known something we've long forgotten. And while modern historians try to file it all neatly into Christian history books, the gargoyles are still watching. And speaking of watching, if you made it this far, you already know that these videos aren't just about facts, they're about sketching the unseen, decoding symbols, and showing how art can bring the mysteries of the past back into the light. The digital sketch you've been seeing take shape throughout this video is part of a much larger archive on building a visual vault of ancient secrets, drawn one cathedral at a time. So if you want more stories like this, when architecture meets lore and sketching meets storytelling, please hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and comment below which forgotten cathedral or haunted site should I sketch and decode next. This was Nidaros Cathedral, where frost, faith, and forgotten runes still echo through the stone. I'll see you in the next one.